Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, he took to the Senate floor yesterday and he decided to talk about how those liberals have been making crime go rampant. They're pushing these anti-law and order measures constantly, and they're letting people out of prison that are coming to hurt you at home. Watch.
If you want to have a broader debate about law enforcement, I can, but we're going to be here for a long time. It's your party that voted in lockstep for the First Step Act that let thousands of violent felons back on the street who have now committed innumerable violent crimes. It's your party who marched and chanted in the streets for defunding the police. It's the Democratic floor leader who blocked my resolution in the summer of 2020 to condemn the defund the police movement. That's what's happening now, and I'm standing up for law enforcement.
If it weren't for those damn libs and then implementing all these policies, like the First Step Act, to release all these violent criminals in the streets to come hurt you at home, we Republicans will never stand for those types of legislation. Dick Durbin decided to correct the record. Let's watch.
The senator from Nevada yield.
Yes.
For a point.
Yes.
The First Step Act, the Democrats did the First Step Act. The Republicans were in a majority. It was a bill sponsored by Senator Grassley, Durbin, Lee, and many others. And who signed it into law? Donald Trump signed it into law, the so-called Democratic measure.
As you heard, Dick Durbin drop the microphone at the end of that as well. Dick Durbin every once in a while impresses me. I enjoy Dick Durbin. It was a measure. What's wrong with you? So he called him out. And so while Tom Cotton had a chance to sit there and determine whether or not he should continue the lie and just go on Fox News later on that night and say that everything Dick Durbin said was a lie, he admitted that he was wrong. Let's watch.
To respond to the senator from Illinois, yes, it's true that President Trump signed the First Step Act. The First Step Act was the worst mistake of the Trump administration. Yes, it's true that a number of Republican senators voted for it. They were wrong. They didn't start demanding that we defund the police in the summer of 2020. They condemned that. They stood up with law enforcement.
Okay, fine, you got me, fine. But we didn't defund the police. Now, by the way, your whole point from the original part about this, Tom Cotton, was these Democrats keep passing this legislation that has allowed all these people out into the streets, all these criminals to come and commit crimes again. Now that you've been corrected that it was a bipartisan bill and that Donald Trump signed it into law, that means your point is that Democrats and Republicans created a bill that released tons of criminals into the streets to hurt you, and that Donald Trump signed it. So finish the statement. Yeah, it was the biggest mistake they made. The biggest mistake they made during Trump's presidency was releasing tons of violent criminals into the streets to come and hurt you. So Republican voters, why would you vote for any of these folks that have released violent criminals into the streets to come and invade your houses and come and kill your children? Because that's what Tom Cotton just said, except he didn't finish the thought when he was corrected. It's only violent criminals coming to invade your houses and kill your kids when it's Democrats that have passed those laws. When it's bipartisan and Donald Trump signed the bill into law, now we skip over that one fact that they're coming in to kill your kids and commit more violent crimes. Why isn't it the same point the second time? Because it was never a point the first time. It was BS. That's what it was. This isn't just a Tom Cotton problem. This is a conservative pundit problem too. Because Jeanine Pirro, she was on the 5, I believe, the other day, and she decided to talk about all this violence that was in the summer of 2020 in those protests, compared to what Justin Trudeau is going to do with those truckers up in Canada, and how Biden didn't have a problem when he was president in 2020. Watch.
The idea that Trudeau came out and he said, look, what I want to do is I want to keep Canadians safe, and they're harming the economy and they're endangering public safety. No, they're not. They're sitting there and they're just protesting. And the amazing part of it is Trudeau is now going to listen to Biden. Biden now has the final word on what you should do if someone is protesting peacefully. Biden, the same guy who in the summer of 2020 decided that he would allow people to burn down, streets and businesses and create all kinds of problems and arson and criminal acts and police injured. So Biden's going to call this guy who is dumb enough to listen to him.
Trudeau is dumb enough to listen to not President Biden during the summer of 2020. I'm not sure she realizes this, but the election of 2020 was at the end of the year. It was in November. That's why Trump's violent insurrection was in January of 21. So in the summer of 2020, when you're talking about how soft Joe Biden was on crime and the protests and the riots that occurred in some cities, that means, after you should have been corrected there, I'm sure no one did, but after you get corrected, that means your point is Donald Trump was soft on crime and he was supportive of the 2020 protests that happened for racial injustice. It doesn't have to make sense as long as you demonize folks and miss the timeline completely. So Joe Biden, who wasn't even an elected official at the time either, so no influence on what happened in 2020, but it's Joe Biden's fault. And 80% of our audience will eat it up and go, that's right. Because now that Joe Biden's in his second term, he let all that stuff happen in 2020. No, it's lies after lies. And maybe she just got her timing wrong, fine. But you know what, correct it later and say, I'm sorry, my bad. Donald Trump is the one who's soft on crime. It's because they don't believe in anything they're saying. It's just to change the narrative in people's minds so that they vote a certain way. Not based on facts, based on this lack of reality that they push every day.